It's now 6:16. So I'm just going to say a word of prayer, and then I'm going to ask Elder Dave to come forward as he gives you the lecture on Kellogg, and then we're going to go to the second part of the practical. All right. All right, let us stand. We're going to stand and pray, and then Dave will come over. All right, so let us pray. If you're on the outside, come in. We're going to start again. All righty. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for your love and your mercies. We have been in your house on your day for several hours learning how to love you more and how to love our neighbors as we share compassion with them so they can know you more. We pray for this half of the program that you'll be with your manservant, you speak through him to us so we can learn more about how to be good missionaries. Thank you so much for hearing and answering our prayers. I pray for Christ's sake. Amen.
Testing. Okay. Okay, we kind of left off at this point earlier today. After the life and ministry and crucifixion, resurrection of Jesus, and just pretty obvious, logical, common sense. You look at those first 6 accusations, and not a one of those will stand. But then I said that there are 3 more, and they're still on the table. You'll see why. I know that they're on the table, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But there's one that's going to need some explanation. It's number 7. The word arbitrary. When Lucifer said, God, your law is arbitrary. What does that mean? Now, in English, and I presume in a lot of other languages, words can have more than one shade of meaning. So arbitrary in normal English usage can mean anything from just kind of it doesn't make sense to the full formal meaning that it is based on someone's arbitrary decision. They just said, this is the law. Now, I'll let you go through this exercise, but you can take any meaning of the word arbitrary you want and try to plug it into Satan's making a claim about it. And I'm just going to say that for myself, none of the lesser meanings make a bit of sense. Lucifer wouldn't have had an argument to make with those lesser meanings. When he said your law is arbitrary, I'm understanding that, and you can do differently if you wish. It's a free country, you know. God believes in freedom, so you can decide to do differently if you wish. But just so you understand where I'm coming from, I believe he was saying, God, your law is what it is because you said that's what it was going to be. You could say something else. So just change it. Let me illustrate this. Suppose you're driving down this road. They have some roads kind of like that in Texas. But this one's in Australia, actually. This is the longest straight road on Earth. something like 57 miles. You just put a rock on the gas pedal and go to sleep. That's just. And so you're driving down this road, just pretend, and you come to a sign. Now take one more look at that road, and take one more look at that sign. What are you thinking? Speed trap. Okay, yeah. It's a possibility. He's hiding up there right behind that little bush. Yeah, you're thinking this is crazy. Nobody's going to drive 40. Not on this road. This is insane. This is like an 80, at least. And if you're young and adventuresome and you have a hot car, it's 120. Come on, let's get where we're going. It's just like it's perfectly straight. There's no potholes. I don't even see any kangaroos in the picture. So, whatever. Now, this is an arbitrary law. All speed limits are arbitrary. Somebody in the county courthouse or the state capitol or the federal government or something, I don't know who does these things, but somebody sat down and said, I think we ought to make the speed limit 40 on that street right there. Now, hopefully, they're using good common sense. There's nothing inherently evil about an arbitrary law. You got to put up some sort of a number. Right? I lived outside of Oklahoma City for 10 years. And right there in Oklahoma City, 25 and 40 cross, and there's like about 15 million cars that go through that crossing every day. And they were reworking the thing for the whole 10 years I was there. And they'd have to build a whole road around what they were doing, and then they'd work on this part of the road, and then they'd tear this all apart, and they'd build a whole other road around this way, and it was just a long, ridiculous process. And the whole time they had up these signs that said, construction zone, speed limit 55. Nobody paid attention to those signs. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. Nobody's slowing down. I slow down to 55, I'm going to get rear-ended. It's just not happening, And then, I don't know, somebody from the local university psychology department or somebody came up with a fascinating idea, and they changed the signs. Speed limit, construction zone, speed limit, 53. 50 what? 53. That is an official looking sign. 53 miles an hour, And it's like all of a sudden you got everybody slamming on the brakes. It's like, whoa, what was that? I've never heard that before. That probably got a radar gun on me, So it was really fascinating. And in fact, yeah, you got a lot of tail ends. They took the sign down after a while because people were getting hit in the back. But you could change it. That's the nice thing about a sign like this. It's also really easy to forgive. Has anybody here ever been pulled over and just given a warning? That's your lucky day. I'm just going to give you a warning. That's nice. That cop just forgave you. You were guilty. Probably. I don't know. You were probably guilty. But he forgave you. Arbitrary laws, that's really easy to do. Nice. There's some other things about arbitrary law. We may look into that more later, but this is all we need to know for right now. But let's go back to our road, and we're going to give you another sign this time. How is it going to work if I come into that corner at 80 miles an hour? Oh, one other detail I forgot to mention is that arbitrary laws always require external enforcement. If you're driving 80 or 120 down that road and there's no police officer around, as long as you stay on the road and don't hit a kangaroo or something, you get where you're going just a lot faster. That's all that happens. But this sign, if I come into that corner at 80 or 120, it doesn't take a police officer. And it's not that easy to forgive. That's the difference between an arbitrary law and a non-arbitrary law. This law Suppose we'd call it inertia or something like that, momentum or whatever it is, physics. That law doesn't come from the city hall or the state house or the Congress. City hall, state house, and Congress, they couldn't even change that law if they tried. Like beyond their control. And if I come into that corner at 80 miles an hour, go bouncing off through the ditch and wrap my car around a tree and fly through the windshield and lose half my blood, there's no cop in the world that could come walking up and just kind of like, "Now, son, looks like you're having a bad day. But you know what? I'm just going to make it a warning. It's okay." Yeah. It's not okay. I'm lacking half my blood. You can't forgive it that easily. Satan honestly seems to have believed that God's law was arbitrary. Notice this. Satan planned to wrest from God the noble Adam and his companion Eve. If he could in any way beguile them to disobedience, God would make some provision whereby they might be pardoned. And then he himself and all the fallen angels would be in a fair way to share with them of God's mercy. He said, if I can get them on the wrong side of the law, God will change the law. If he changes the law for them, he's going to have to change it for me. You know, we were a bargaining chip in this whole thing. That's all we are to Satan. We're a bargaining chip. He knew that God loved us. He said, I'm going to take advantage of that. Satan reasoned that if God pardoned sinful man whom he had created, he would also pardon and receive into favor him and his angels. But he was disappointed. I love that line. That's such classic understatement. He was disappointed. He was driven right smack into chronic homicidal rage. That's what happened to him. He was disappointed. He thought, sure, he could get them off. God would find a way to pardon them, and then he would have to do it for him too. And you know, this arbitrary thing keeps showing up. You know, Satan came to Eve as an angel of light kind of wrapped in a snake. Don't worry about that part. And persuaded her that this particular prohibition was of arbitrary authority. What difference does that make? Well, it requires external enforcement. God's not here. He comes in the cool of the evening. He's not here right now, and he's never going to miss a couple little pieces of fruit. Can't hurt to try it. Won't make any difference anyhow if you don't get caught. Arbitrary. After Adam and Eve had sinned, they became conscious that their garments of purity and brightness, the covering given them by God, had fallen away from them. They saw that they were naked and ashamed to respond to God's call. They hid themselves among the trees of the garden. Deprived of the divine covering of light and innocence, they are afraid to meet their God. That's like losing half your blood. It happened as a result of what they did. They lost this. Now they're afraid. You know, we've been afraid ever since. What is it to be in an unsaved condition? Is it not to be living without that full confidence in God, which is born of love, which leads us to take him at his word? You can't do that when you're afraid of somebody. Faith is a very simple matter. It is confidence in God. But we had lost it. And Jesus came back to restore it. Because deficiency diseases are always treated by providing what you're deficient in. And you won't have faith in someone that you think might be lying and might be revengeful and might be, all these other things. So Jesus came back to display the character, to reveal the character of his Father, so that we would have chance to have faith. Faith only comes in when you don't have anything else. It's not faith to look at something and say, well, that makes sense. That's not faith. That's being reasonable. It makes sense. Faith is when you don't have anything else and you choose to trust God. You know, the angels in heaven didn't know who was right when Lucifer was expelled. They did not know who was right. It would take 4,000 years before some of those questions were answered. And the difference between the angels who stayed and the angels who were expelled is the angels who stayed chose to have faith in God even though they didn't know the answer. Angels are saved by faith too. Faith is the only thing that can hold us when we're in over our head. When we don't know the answer, when we don't know, that's when faith comes in. Okay. That's the end of that one. Over to this one. So we're going to jump about 1,800 years now. We jumped 4,000 years in the first between the first one and the second one. Now we're jumping about 1,800 years. And we're talking about a guy by the name of John Harvey Kellogg. Esther's already mentioned him a couple of times, I heard. Anybody familiar with this guy? What do you know him for? Cornflakes, sure. Sanitarium Battle Creek. Anything else? I'm sorry? Battle Creek, yeah, Battle Creek, yeah. Yes. James and Ellen helped him go to his first medical school, yes. Pantheism, that's right. Mostly what we hear about Kellogg is cornflakes and pantheism. Yeah, it's easy, it's quick. There's more to the story, and it's a very instructive. If there's one person in Adventist history other than Ellen White that I think we have lots to learn from, it's this guy. And we're looking at what almost was. Almost. Okay, so you've seen this kind of thing. Christ was the greatest physician the world has ever known. His heart was ever touched with human woe. And Christ was the greatest physician that ever trod this sin-cursed earth. The Lord would have his people come to him for their power of healing. Okay, that's good. Yeah, these are good. The Lord would have us understand that it's a mistake to regard as most essential the education given by physicians who reject the authority of Christ, the greatest physician who ever lived upon the earth. So who was the greatest physician that ever lived on the earth? Jesus, yeah. But you've probably not seen this kind of statement. The greatest physician is the one who walks in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. Well, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean, Jesus was the greatest physician, so if we're not counting him, the greatest physician is the one who walks in the footsteps. Makes sense. Bet you've never seen this one. I know that the Lord has placed you in a very responsible position, standing as you do as the greatest physician in our world. A man to whom the Lord has given understanding and knowledge, that you may do justice and judgment and reveal the true missionary spirit in the institution, which is to represent truth in contrast with error. The greatest physician in our world. Who do you suppose that was written to? You should be able to guess. Written to John Harvey Kellogg. Kellogg, here's some pictures. Just look at the pictures for a second there. Interesting guy. He liked the beard thing. Okay. Liked white clothes. Very interesting fellow. This is John. I want you to see how he fits into my story. So we started off last night talking about Lucifer's rebellion. And this morning we talked about Christ's response. Right now we're mostly going to talk about the good Kellogg, which led to the beginning of the loud cry. You'll see that in a bit. And then we're going to touch a little later on the bad Kellogg, which blessed us with the alpha of apostasy. Now, what's interesting is that every tactic, every means of deception that Lucifer used in his rebellion in heaven, Kellogg used in the Alpha of Apostasy. Every proper principle that Jesus used in his ministry, Kellogg kind of used. It wasn't perfect. But the fact that he was catching on to what Jesus was doing and the principles Jesus was working on is what made his work the greatest physician in the world. And here's the importance. From all of this, we can learn lessons because that's what we're facing. If we understand the alpha of apostasy, it's the best warning we can have for the omega of apostasy. If we understand the beginning of the loud cry and what caused it to fail, or Ellen White said it was strangled actually, then I think it puts us in better position to take a part in the final, successful loud cry. That's my interest in all this. Let's go on. Dr. Kellogg has done a work that no man I know of among us has had qualifications to do. God says of Dr. Kellogg, he is my physician. Respect him and sustain him. If Dr. Kellogg, notice that first word. What do we call that kind of word? It's a conditional word, yeah, okay. If Dr. Kellogg will trust himself wholly with God, he, capital H, will give him, little h, tact and perception and skill as a practitioner that has seldom been excelled. Stop there for a second. In one of their official histories, the American Medical Association ranked Kellogg as the single most influential physician for a period of 40 years. Nobody's ever going to do that again. Everybody gets their 15 minutes of fame now, and that's it. You know? For 40 years, Kellogg was the man. They didn't like him, always. They disagreed with him strenuously on vegetarianism, for instance. But Kellogg was the man. Skill as a practitioner has seldom been excelled. Angels of God will stand by his side when human life is in peril, and wisdom from above will be given him. God designs that Dr. Kellogg shall still advance. He has only begun to climb the ladder. The Lord will give him grace that he is now ignorant of, and he will see as he has never seen before. He will realize that there is to be an intelligent discarding of all drugs. Skill and knowledge is to be given him, which he is in no case to keep to himself. He is to educate, educate, educate. Now, if you're like most folks, there's one sentence there that might have caught your attention. Well, that's great. I'm glad a lot of people kind of fixate on a different sentence. He will realize there is to be an intelligent discarding of all drugs. That's an interesting thing to say. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the word intelligent. And I would propose that until you have an alternative therapy to some drug that's keeping you alive, that is at least as successful, it probably wouldn't be intelligent to discontinue that drug. Does that make sense? Do I believe that there is a non-drug solution for disease as opposed to injury? I'm a pretty big fan of anesthesia when, the guy's all cut up and bleeding, right? When you're doing surgery, anesthesia is a nice touch. And that takes drugs. But to disease, are there non-drug treatments for all diseases? I'm just hopeful enough to think, I like to think there is. But you know what? We don't know them all. There's a bunch of them we don't know. Why? See that first word up there? That's why. That's why. This is what God wanted to give the Adventist church through Dr. Kellogg. But it didn't work out. Willie White, Ellen White's son, wrote this. This is many years later, but anyhow, it's still interesting. He said, I do not believe there is a person living, not even her own sons, for whom mother would do more to help, to encourage, to correct, and to instruct than Dr. Kellogg. Why is this? Because God has given him great ability, great opportunities, great responsibilities. And as mother has said to me several times during the last winter, Dr. Kellogg stands where he can do more to relieve the perplexities of the present situations than any other living man. And two, he stands where he can do more to bring confusion, perplexity, and backsliding than any other man living. You know, down through the ages, there have been millions of believers. There have been a few Noahs and Moseses, Davids, Abraham, John the Baptist, Paul. Not a whole lot of those folks. Kellogg was one of those folks. That's just my opinion. Kellogg was the greatest physician in our world. Dr. Kellogg was a complex guy. He was intelligent, no question on that. He was insecure. Dr. Kellogg was 5 feet 4 inches. Kind of short. And the funny thing is, he was short in the legs. In his office, he had a little hardwood bench cut back into the wall. I mean, the wall's here, but there's this, hole type of thing, and there's a little bench right there. And on the back wall back here, he had a tape measure thing. And when you came walking through the door, he had pretty good eyeballs. He would size you up, and if he thought he was going to win, he'd say, come on over, let's see how tall you are. And he'd sit you down, and he'd measure you from here up. And then he'd sit down, and he'd be taller than you. He's just short in the legs. Some people thought he really, really, really would have loved to be 6 foot tall. But he wasn't. He was 5'4". And maybe that contributed to a little insecurity. People are complex creatures. They're not always totally rational. Kellogg was independent. I think it was his 9th birthday. I may be off a year or two. His father bought him a pocket watch. Now, in those days, a pocket watch was kind of like an iPhone 35 or whatever number we're up to. That was a pretty cool thing. And he handed it to his son in a nice little box. And John Harvey opened it up, undid the wrapping paper, took it out, looked at it, and he said, "It's beautiful, Father." He put it back, he wrapped it up, put it in the box, closed the box, handed the box back, and he said, "But I will buy my own." That's independence. That's independence. He could be proud in a bad way at times. This young lady, picture taken in her later years, she was young at a time. In 1884, I think it was. I may be wrong on my year. Summer of 1884, Dr. Kellogg came back from his 2 years of medical training at Ann Arbor, Michigan. And he spent the summer in Battle Creek. And while he was there, he was like 21, I think, at the time, something like that, quite young. Maybe a little bit older, 22, 23, something in that neighborhood. But there's this funny thing that happens in the male mind at about that age. And just in casual observation, he noticed there was a new young lady that moved to Battle Creek. Her name was Mary Kelsey. She was a musician. She was a poet. She was a good cook. She did typesetting at the Review and Herald. And then she got promoted to proofreader. But there's a funny thing is that sometimes it happens, and there was another young man by the name of William Clarence White living in Battle Creek, and he also noticed Mary Kelsey. And in the fall of the year, this was 1884, in the fall of the year, 1874. I'll get it right. Had to back up a decade. 1874. In the fall of 1874, W.C. White went with his father out to California, and John Harvey Kellogg went to medical school at Bellevue University in New York. And Mary Kelsey stayed in the middle of the country. And the story is that there were letters going back and forth to both coasts. Now, I spoke up in Michigan one time, pretty close to Battle Creek, and somebody came up and shared what I would call scuttlebutt rumor. I have no documentation for this, except that some guy told me. He claimed that it was common knowledge in Battle Creek. What do I know? The story is that Willie White had a friend who worked in the post office. And that some of John's letters never left town. Now, that's just a story, and I am absolutely positive that Willie White would never have allowed that if he'd known about it. So, do what you want. You don't believe that. Just, entertain the notion. That's all you can do, because there's no evidence for that. But in time, Mary Kelsey moved to California and became Mrs. W.C. White. John and Willie had grown up together, but they were never quite so close after that, because John Harvey Kellogg did not come in second place, ever. A couple years later, this young lady came to visit her cousin, I think it was, in the sanitarium. Her name was Ella Eaton. She was everything Mary Kelsey was. She was a musician. She was a good cook. She was literarily inclined. Plus one more thing, which in the 1870s was very rare. Ella Eaton had a college degree. For women, pretty rare in those days. She had graduated from Alfred University in upstate New York. Now, Alfred University is the University of the Seventh-day Baptists. And Ella Eaton was a lifelong Seventh-day Baptist. She never became a Seventh-day Adventist. Now, to put that into perspective, in the mid-1890s, there was actual talk of just merging the two denominations. There wasn't that much difference seen. I mean, if you go to Sabbath, you keep Sabbath, I keep Sabbath, When they actually got around to thinking about merging the two denominations, the Baptists all of a sudden started finding out a few other things. It's like, yeah, Sabbath, we're good with Sabbath. Yeah, we're not quite so sure on the second coming as you guys. State of the dead? What do you mean, state of the dead? Sanctuary? Yeah, that's, hadn't really thought about that before. Spirit of prophecy? Oh. The deal fell out. We didn't merge those two. But John Harvey married Ella Eaton. He was good friends with Ellen White. Near as I know, Ellen White never made an issue out of her being a Seventh-day Baptist. I don't think Ellen White would have said that was the best thing, but, she was polite. But John could be extravagant at times. That came out in the wedding because the wedding was the sanitarium grounds, and it was just a little over the top. And Ellen White told him that was unbecoming of a medical minister as he was. Kellogg could be extremely generous. He was habitually generous. He never took a salary from the sanitarium. He earned his own way. He wrote books. He wrote 50 books in his lifetime, and he earned his living off the royalties of the books. He put pretty nearly 50 students through medical school at his expense. Very generous guy. He was decisive. The sanitarium burnt down January 18, 1902. Dr. Kellogg was away from town at the time. He was coming back towards Battle Creek. He hit Chicago, and there was a newspaper boy, extra, extra, read all about it, Battle Creek Sanitarium burns to the ground. Kellogg bought a copy, and he scanned it over, and he was like the super-duper multi-million miler guy on the railroads, right? It's like he had frequent flight, miles. And he went to the railroad company and said, yes, I'll be taking the train from Chicago to Battle Creek. I will need a lapboard, 3 pencils, a ruler, and a couple of big sheets of paper. And by the time he got to Battle Creek, he had plans drawn for a new sanitarium. Not every detail, of course, but he had, if it burned to the ground, we're going to need a new one. So let's get on to it. Very decisive guy. He was controlling at times. If you were a doctor in the sanitarium and you started getting a little too much fame, you might find yourself reassigned to the sanitarium down in Guadalajara or something. Dr. Kellogg kind of liked to run the show. But for our story, the most important thing is he was converted. Here's the setting. October 10 to November 5, 1888. There was a ministerial institute and then a general conference session held at Minneapolis. You've heard of the Minneapolis General Conference session? Does that ring a bell with anyone? 1888, Jones, Wagner, that whole thing. This is the session. And this is what Ellen White remembered from it 15 years later. After the meeting at Minneapolis, Dr. Kellogg was a converted man, and we all knew it. We could see the converting power of God working in his heart and life. So I'm a curious guy, and I read a statement like that, and I say, wow, what could they see? They all knew it. How did they know it? What did they know? This kind of thing. When the believer is justified because of the merit of Christ, he's not free to work on righteousness. Faith works by love and purifies the soul. Faith buds and blossoms and bears a harvest of precious fruit. Where faith is, good works appear. The sick are visited, the poor are cared for, the fatherless and the widows are not neglected, the naked are clothed, the destitute are fed. It turns out that that's what converted people do. And that's what Kellogg started. He basically started being nice to people. Faith in Jesus Christ as our personal Savior, the one who pardons our sins and transgressions, the one who is able to keep us from sin and lead us in his footsteps, is set forth in the 58th chapter of Isaiah. Here are presented the fruits of a faith that works by love and purifies the soul from selfishness. Faith and works are here combined. Now she quotes Isaiah 58, thy righteousness shall go before thee. What does this mean? It means Christ is our righteousness. This is the whole 1888 thing. In October of 1890, Dr. Kellogg sought Ellen White's reaction to the idea of starting an orphanage. She wrote a letter. It goes like this. Dear brethren, while in Petoskey, I never can pronounce that right, I never can remember, but it's a city up in Michigan someplace. I had some conversation with your physician-in-chief in regard to establishing a home for children, orphan children, at Battle Creek. I said that this was just what was needed among us as a people, and that in enterprises of this kind, we were far behind other denominations. A fascinating little story about that letter. We'll come to that later. So Kellogg made a motion at the General Conference of 1891. He said, why don't we start an orphanage? And they passed it. And they said, go ahead and raise the funds. But a year later, it turned out that the church wasn't that excited about an orphanage, and the money hadn't come in. They had barely enough money to buy a bare plot of land in the west end of Battle Creek, but they had no building, had no staff, had nothing. But there were some people who were very excited about the idea of an orphanage in Battle Creek, and that was people who were caring for orphans that they didn't want. And so they started to show up at the train station. Bobby, 4 years old, Battle Creek Orphanage, pinned on his shirt. By March of 1892, Kellogg had about 25 little kids just shown up out of the blue. Varying ages, all young. He rented 2 cabins back behind the sanitarium, and he stole nurses. He says, listen, you and you and you, we got an emergency out here. You guys got to come with me. It wasn't good. As he put it, he said, he began to pray. He said, Lord, I need a lot of money, and I need it fast. Mrs. Carolyn Haskell came as a guest at the sanitarium. Impressed by what she had seen, she asked Kellogg if there were any special needs towards which she might donate. Well, he said, well, we have a program, $100 a year sponsors a hospital bed for someone who can't pay. She listened to that, and she said, I was thinking of something rather larger than that. Her interest eventually led to a $30,000 gift given as a memorial to her late husband, Frederick Haskell. $30,000 was a big chunk of change back then. Soon, approximately 100 children were being cared for by the Haskell Home Orphanage. $30,000, if you have any doubt as to what inflation is doing, yeah, you try to build one of those for $30,000. There wasn't a dime of Adventist money that went into that building. That was built for $30,000. Today, you could not buy the doorknobs for $30,000. Maybe the doorknobs. You couldn't buy the windows, I'll tell you that much. About the same time, there was a 17-year-old girl who came from Chicago to Battle Creek, spent about 6 weeks in the sanitarium for diagnostic work. Kellogg, I suppose, helped with the diagnosis. I don't know the details. She ended up going back down to Chicago, had an operation. Why she would go to anyone other than Kellogg for an operation is a mystery to me. Kellogg was setting the world record at the time for abdominal surgeries without a fatality. This was a time when 1 out of 4 patients would die on the operating table. 1 out of 4. Those are interesting odds. I don't remember what it was, 148 or something like that, with no fatalities. Kellogg was the man. But she went back down to Chicago. Maybe there was somebody had a specialty or something, whatever. Surgeon opened her up, looked around, sewed her back up, and says, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. Everybody knew she was going to die. On her deathbed, she said, Daddy, I want you to make me a promise. She says, there are no nurses anywhere in this world like the nurses in that sanitarium at Battle Creek. As a memorial to me, I want you to pay to bring a nurse from Battle Creek to work for the poor people of Chicago. He promised. He was a banker. He had some money. He died. Father writes a letter. Dr. Kellogg was a busy guy, and he ignored the letter. Father wrote again. Dr. Kellogg was still busy. Father wrote a third time. Yeah, nope, still busy. And then the guy got smart or lucky, and he had his wife write a letter. Dr. Kellogg had a soft spot in his heart for mothers. What are you going to do? So he marched over to the sanitarium, and he looked up Emily Schranz. He said, Emily, you're the best nurse in the sanitarium. Would you be willing to go to Chicago? And Emily was the beginning of what came to be known as the visiting nurses program, where they went and they worked. They went to an area known as the stockyards. There was another name for it. It was called Hell's Half Acre. A lot of people objected to that name, that it's obviously larger than half an acre. The other part matches. This is where the police would not go in Chicago. But these nurses did. Many times these nurses were stopped and said, "Ma'am, turn around, don't go that way." And they'd turn around and they'd point to the little cross on their cape or whatever it is she's wearing there. "Thank you for your concern, officer, but I'll be fine." And they were. The people in the stockyards loved those nurses because they treated them like people. There was another program that also began in 1892, November, first Friday night of November. Dr. Kellogg called all the workers together in the sanitarium cafeteria, and he said, I don't know his exact words, so I'm just making this up, but basically he said, "You know what? The orphanage we're building," it hasn't been finished yet, but they were building this orphanage. It was all done with Episcopalian money because Mrs. Haskell was not an Adventist. And the visiting nurses program, that money's coming from a banker down in Chicago, and he's not an Adventist. And here we are in Battle Creek. We've got all these doctors and nurses here. Surely we can do something. And so he encouraged them. And that night, they formed Christian Help Band Number 1. An Australian guy by the name of A.W. Simmons, Arthur Simmons, was chosen as the leader of Christian Help Band Number 1. Christian Help Band is a very complicated technical thing. It was a band or a group of Christians who tried to help people. That's all it was. A.W. Simmons was the leader. There were 2 mothers helpers, described as middle-aged women, whose job was to go around in their section of town, from this street to this street, and this avenue to this avenue, that's your section, knock on every door and say, "How can we help you? Everything good here? You have enough food? Your husband have a job? Are you making it? Your kids have warm jackets. The winter's going to be cold, ma'am. Your kids have warm jackets?" 2 of those, 2 mothers helpers. There were 3 young men called burden bearers. Their job was just to pack stuff around. There were 2 nurses, and there was a Bible worker. That was a Christian Help Band. And they started working in Battle Creek in early November 1892. One more thing happened that year. In the Review and Herald of November 22, 1892, Ellen White would announce that the loud cry of the 3rd angel has already begun in the revelation of the righteousness of Christ. And my premise, again, you're free to think otherwise, but my argument is this. It was the orphanage, visiting nurses, the Christian help bands, taking the message of 1888 in practical ways, like Jesus spending more time healing than preaching. That was the beginning of the loud cry. And we're going to stop there because my time is up. I want you to hear what Esther has to say, and just we're on page 18, so let's remember that. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Okay, so that way I don't have to. So let's read this. We are told that in time of trouble, there will be sick ones. How many? Plenty of them that will need help. So because of the need, but also for their own sake, they should, well, they have opportunities. Do we have opportunities now? Praise God. Become intelligent in regard to disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. And those who will do this will find a field of labor anywhere. That's a counsel. It's up to us if we want to follow the advice or not. So I'm very happy that you are here. I'm very happy to be here too. We are told that all gospel workers should know how to give the simple treatments that do so much to relieve pain and remove disease. Are we gospel workers? We learn what worker means to stay active, right? It's a mission. It's God's mission. And gospel is what? The good news of healing and salvation. This is the one I love. We cannot expect the Lord to work a miracle. Check how many times she mentions the word miracle. 1. We cannot expect the Lord to work a miracle for us while we neglect the simple remedies He has provided for our use, which aptly and opportunely applied. Okay, what is aptly? In an appropriate way, right? And opportunely, on time. Don't wait to be very sick. So you need to treat early, prevent or treat early. So aptly and opportunity applied will bring about what type of result? A miraculous result. So this is miracle. Therefore, and here's the package of 3. Number 1, pray, believe, and work. Don't work without praying. And don't pray if you're not going to believe. Don't believe in yourself. Don't believe in your hands. Don't believe in the water. Believe in God. And then work. Because God has chosen the foolish things. Why can charcoal heal me? What can this do? Remember the story of Naaman? That's an awesome story. God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise. God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things which are mighty. Because that way the glory goes to Him, not to this simple treatment. It's so simple that to our brain it doesn't make sense. So everyone should have charcoal at home. You can save a life. It doesn't expire, just keep it covered. So you can keep it, have it at home. So what is charcoal? Here is the key. Charcoal has to be 100% dead. If you burn a corn tortilla, which my grandma used to do when we had diarrhea or something, did they give you burn something? It can have benzopyrene. It can. I mean, if you don't do it often, I don't think it's going to give you cancer, but it's bad. Because there's still plant matter or live matter that is not completely burned, so it's not good. So we need to be careful that the process, if you are learning to make your own charcoal, you can use it for external use, but you need to be very sure you have a good charcoal if you're going to eat it. Make sense? It has to be 100% burnt. If it's activated, it's even more, it's been burned even more, and it's extra potent, a lot more potent. So what do we use to, why is it so strong? It's an electrical action that charcoal has that it's called absorption. So I did not misspell the word. You notice the word absorb is not with B as in boy. It's a D. This word, the sponge absorbs, swells up, and changes the structure. But AD, with D as in David, absorption means attracting to itself like a magnet. So it's an electrical action. So charcoal attracts the poison, which is fascinating because it doesn't attract anything good. It attracts only bad things. Who tells the charcoal what to attract? It's amazing. It's a gift. So it will absorb gases, toxins, heavy metals, poisons, germs, chemicals, making them ineffective. Okay? I have many stories. We don't have a lot of time, but quickly. I'm not going to tell you who. Maybe you'll guess, but someone very close to me had a ruptured gallbladder. He didn't know, and because he's very stubborn, he has pain for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm like, let's go to the hospital. I cannot. And he kept taking charcoal because he doesn't want to go to the hospital. And finally, I was so mad. I'm like, this is called neglecting your own health. We're going to the hospital. And I don't like to force people because we're adults. I mean, unless they're children or someone with dementia. But if you're an adult, you want to die, go ahead. It's your choice. We need to respect. But at what point? I don't know. But anyway, maybe you're guessing who he is. But I said, we're going to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, sepsis, ruptured, scared. You can die in 1 day or less. Blood pressure with the 10 times to find what they used to be good veins. Okay, I'm going to make it short. The doctor, when he came out, they were going to leave a drain, and it was going to be complicated surgery. When he came, he said, there was something very strange. I opened, and it was a mess, but it was all encapsulated. I didn't see it with my eyes, but those were his words. He said, it was a mess, but it was encapsulated. I don't know. I didn't see it. I think the charcoal saved his life. I think. And I've seen it several times. The charcoal is very powerful because the charcoal has such power that if the bacteria or the poison is on that door at the end of this hole, and the charcoal is here, it attracts all the way. So it's the electrical action is very strong. You don't need a lot of charcoal. With clay, we'll learn about clay, has to be a little thick when you make a poultice. With the charcoal, a little charcoal. It has to be moist. Why? All poultices have to be wet. Why? Because our body is mostly water, so it has to be wet to work. But if you have powder, it can also attract gases. That's why you need to keep it covered. So activated charcoal is very, very strong. What do you burn to make charcoal? It can be oak, pine, eucalyptus tree, willow, coconut shells, and others. Especially for internal use, make sure it's a good. Now, we use charcoal in filters. For the fish tanks, they have charcoal to filter the water. Filters, like you buy filters at the store that had charcoal as a filter. I travel all over the place, and I have this water bottle that has a charcoal filter. I have to buy charcoal. So I've been to Africa, Papua New Guinea, Tonga. Placebo, it may be, but makes me that I'm drinking. I mean, this is from the hotel faucet. Can we drink the water here from? Yeah. So yeah, I prefer, but charcoal, you can get it in filters. So for filters, they use bones and things they burn. So you're not really consuming that charcoal. But for consumption, coconut shells is pretty good. And this oak, pine, eucalyptus, willow. So you can get charcoal in tablets. Have you seen charcoal everywhere now? They have toothpaste and they make it so expensive. You need powder. That's what we need. But, if you want to get fancy. So thank you for what are these capsules? Okay, so we have capsules. We have soap, right? Charcoal soap. I love it. A friend gave me this. I went to Iraq. And he came from South Africa, and they make it. It's Kim from OCI. They make it as a how do you call, as a business. They make soap, different tea tree oil, and so this is charcoal soap. We have the powder. I always travel with tablets, and I'm gonna tell you why I like tablets, me personally, because they're not as messy as the powder unless I get sick. But as prevention, and I'm gonna do it right now, you can laugh. You're okay. I won't get offended if you laugh because my mouth is going to look funny. So this is about 1 tablespoon. I don't swallow the tablets because I'm not using it for my stomach or for indigestion. I'm using it to paint my throat. So if I was hugging people and then I'm like, it's itchy because I've been speaking or whatever, it will cover me and it will protect me from germs and from inflammation if you've been speaking, all day. So I like to travel with tablets, and also if I get sick, of course. But I also carry my powder, but powder can be more messy, so this is practical. So if you see me with a black mouth, you know why. So why use charcoal? Because it's easy to use, it's not very expensive, it does not expire, it's organic and natural, it's simple, and it's highly effective. You can save a life with charcoal. This is how it looks under the microscope. You see the little crevice? The little tunnels? The poison gets entrapped in those little tunnels, and it doesn't let go. It goes out, you know where. You know when you go to the bathroom. So absorption is the process where the material is gonna absorb and is gonna change the structure like a sponge. But absorption, it's an electrical action. So that's what the charcoal has. Clay, we're gonna learn that has both absorption and absorption. But charcoal only absorbs with D as in David. So don't eat this charcoal, please. Thank you very much. That's not it. That's not the one you're supposed to use. Especially those that have like a chemical to burn for barbecue. You eat this charcoal? No? No. So why powder? Why is it better to have powder? Because look, if you have an emergency, look at how many capsules you need to make 1 tablespoon. So 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon, right? The big one. So 1 tablespoon is 20 capsules. So if you have an emergency, are you going to swallow the 20 capsules, or you're going to open one by one if you need to make a poultice? It's just not practical for emergencies. It's good if you want it for indigestion and those type of things. Tablets, even worse, because you don't know how much charcoal in the tablet, because they mix it with some type of clay or starch to make the comprimido, ¿cómo se dice? To make it a tablet. Okay, the concern is because charcoal absorbs poisons and some drugs, okay? If you take drugs as a medicine, if you take aspirin, if you take Tylenol, if you take Valium or any benzodiazepines, they're not going to work because charcoal is going to make them not invalid. Yeah, they're not going to work. So if you take any medication, you should take charcoal away from that, as far from that medication as possible. And people have concerns about food. We don't have enough studies. We don't have studies that show that charcoal prevents you from absorbing nutrients. I don't think it's a problem. Drugs, yes, because drugs are not food. So you can use it internally. And in your handout, in the hydrotherapy handout, at the end, there's a list of different formulas, and then we're going to review the formulas. So if you want to use it for infection, it's a little different if you want to use it for inflammation. So we're going to learn how to take it. So you can drink the charcoal internally, and you can use it as an external poultice. So charcoal, poisoning, overdose. This is what we use in the emergency room. Even if the person is unconscious, right? NG tube all the way to the stomach. And we have this big, it's mixed with sucrose or something. So it's a big paste of charcoal, and you just push that whole thing. It goes directly to the stomach. Once, it takes about 10 minutes, they'll be awake and throwing up all black all over the place, very messy. And you save a life. So any drug, some drugs will not be absorbed, but if you are at home and someone is poisoned, just use it. It won't harm. And then you're driving to the hospital, right? Especially if you're away, far away from the hospital. So it helps a lot for like stained teeth. You can brush your teeth for a week. Don't do it for a long time. 3 minutes with coconut and charcoal powder, or buy the expensive toothpaste if you want, but I think the powder works better. Yes, question? Yes, we pour charcoal powder in the food baths. You can also use poultice. So any infection, you can use it as a poultice. So that's how we do, and we're going to learn how to make a poultice. So all these things and more, mainly infection and inflammation. And pain, if pain was caused because of inflammation, charcoal could. And we're going to make poultice for who has pain? You have pain? Knee pain or ankle pain? Knee? The knee? Knee? Oh, you have more than one pain? One pain? Oh, and you? And your wrist? Okay. So, important facts. It does not expire, but you need to keep it, what? Covered. Okay? Covered. Avoid taking it more than 2 weeks. I know people, this man who had colon cancer, he started taking charcoal. He survived colon cancer, surgery, and all that, and he takes charcoal forever. I mean, he's done it a lot more than 2 weeks, a lot more than 2 years. But that's the recommendation. 2 weeks. Don't overdo things. I mean, if you want to detox once in a while, take it for a week. You don't have to be taking charcoal forever, right? What for? But some people like to overdo things. We used to think the more, if it's good, if it's more, it's better, right? No. There's something called dosing. Dose, okay? So charcoal will stain fabrics. Don't say I didn't tell you. Be careful, it will stain and it will not come off. My sister still has a big stain on the light brown, beautiful carpet. Didn't listen to me. So when you make a drink, these are little tips. Add charcoal to the water. If you put the charcoal first and then the water, the charcoal is going to go poof. It's just a little tip. The tablets are not as potent, and drink plenty of water. Some people are going to complain, charcoal makes me constipated. Hello, you already have a problem. So drink extra water when you drink charcoal, or take it with olive oil, which we'll learn that formula. So to make a poultice, this is the formula: 1 part of thickener to 1 part charcoal and 3 parts of water. Okay, so we'll learn we'll make one now. So let's say 1 tablespoon of charcoal with 1 tablespoon of flaxseed. I use ground flaxseed to make the poultice, and then 3 tablespoons of water, okay? Or, of course, if you're gonna make it bigger, just do the math. So poultice must be kept moist to work. Can you reuse a charcoal poultice? Only if you're using it for inflammation. If you use it for infection, no, you need to discard. If you use it for poison, like a spider bite or snake bite, no, it's gonna have poison, throw it away. But if you're using it for inflammation and you want to save, you can, keep it and then reuse it. Just have to add more water. Okay, so it could be put in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer, and you can just keep it and reuse it. Okay, so internal uses, here we go. Drink number 1 is simply charcoal with water, okay? So you mix 1 tablespoon of charcoal in a glass of water. What is a glass? How many milliliters? 8 ounces, 250 milliliters. So if you have stomach pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, any indigestion, this is very good, and it will work fast. If you have gas, if you're bloated, it's good for liver. It's very good liver detox. It can even lower cholesterol. There are studies about that. It can lower cholesterol. So liver, kidney, and of course diet and everything else, not just taking charcoal. So taking with water. But if you want to have a little help, this is a syrup. So if you have problems with ulcers, gastritis, and you want to heal internally, you're gonna make a syrup with honey and charcoal. So you're gonna mix 1 cup of honey, 1 cup of olive oil, 1.5 cup of activated charcoal powder. I've tried that. I don't know why that's the mix, but maybe 1 cup of charcoal. But it's gonna be thick. And 5 to 10 drops of peppermint oil, and you're gonna take 1 to 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons, the little one, 1 to 2 morning and evening for 2 weeks or 12 days, okay? So this is good, and it's healing, especially if you are using good honey. We're gonna learn about good honey and Manuka honey and how these honeys can heal and why. So this is a healing syrup, okay, for gastritis or GI problems, ulcers even. Food grade, good brand. Yes, good peppermint oil, food grade. Okay, charcoal number 3, drink number 3. Is when you are using it for sore throat. You can mix it with lemon juice and then mix it with olive oil. And I forgot to add a little water if you want to add more water. If you make this, don't forget, mix the charcoal and the water or the lemon juice first. And then add the olive oil. Because if you do the other way around, it's gonna make clumps with the olive oil. So mix the powder first with the liquid and then add olive oil. It's really good. This formula is the best. You can add 2 teaspoons of olive oil instead of 1, even 3 teaspoons. So 1 tablespoon, large. I mean, it's up to you. If you have problems with constipation, take 2. Okay? It's a good detox. This one is for poisoning. If someone, see how I left this open? Where is my... Yeah. I'll just cover it with, oh, it's here. Okay, sorry. So this is for poisoning. This is the dosing for poisoning. Some books says 6 to 12 tablespoons. That's a lot of charcoal because we're talking poisoning. We're talking saving a life. Okay? This is not just for detox. This is poison. If it's a little kid or an adult that weighs 90 pounds, this lady weighs 90 pounds, I'm not going to give her 16 tablespoons. I'm going to give her 8 or 10, okay? So it depends on the size of the person. And you're going to, maybe if they throw up, what do? Give it again. If they throw up again, give it again. And if they have diarrhea, give it again. They throw up, give it again. That's why you need a lot of charcoal. And it depends on what's the poison, right? You should be going to the hospital. We had some poisoning from my friend in Cameroon. It was food poisoning, but the smell was really bad. So this was bad poisoning, paper pail, vomiting, water, diarrhea, super weak. I gave her 6 because she's petite. 6, she threw up again, threw up again. So it's like you're going to fight with the vomiting until it stops. And by the afternoon, she was teaching. So, of course, kind of weak, but that night we had to give another big dose with a little olive oil because it was a lot of charcoal. Right? I think that night, not that night, but the second day, we gave a little olive oil. So it depends. If you get constipated, just add olive oil. But if you're having diarrhea, if you have a GI problem with diarrhea, don't add olive oil because then what's going to happen? Not going to work. It's going to be worse. So water with activated charcoal, the activated charcoal, MDAC, means multiple dose activated charcoal, and this is the protocol at the hospital, is 50 to 100 grams, which is 8 to 16 tablespoons, followed by 2 to 4 tablespoons every 2 to 4 hours, up to 3 times. So that's the protocol. Now, if you cannot remember these numbers, just give a lot. You can remember that? A lot. And repeat. And repeat. You can remember that. You're not going to hurt, you're not going to overdose on charcoal. Someone asked me, can you have too much charcoal? Yeah. I mean, no. Especially if it's for poisoning. So it's very important to have charcoal with you, especially if you have children. And this is very important for poisoning. So if you go camping or if you are around here where you have snakes. Do we have snakes here? Mm-hmm. We had a woman that just passed away in Montemorelos because they didn't have the anti-venom in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And then transfer her to another hospital that's like 20, 30 minutes away, and they didn't have the anti-venom. And I'm like, why didn't they use charcoal? And it wasn't even a snake, it was a spider. She died. Is it important to teach our communities about these simple remedies? Have it at home. We can buy it in America. We can buy it in Mexico too. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So what do we have here? Venom, so poisonous bites. Now, some Australian snakes are crazy, so it doesn't work with them. But we're here, we're not in Australia. So it works for our snakes. And the brown recluse and the widow, the black widow, it works. And it also works for pain and inflammation if it's just like bee stings. Now, some people are very allergic to bee stings. So if you apply charcoal immediately, it can pull the venom, okay? And then you're driving to the hospital, and you take it internally too. You understand? So you're giving charcoal, putting a poultice on top of the venom, and driving to the hospital. What if you're 1 hour away from the hospital because you were camping? You can save a life. It's true. I mean, I hope it will never happen to any of us, that situation, but I would like to have charcoal if that happens. Wouldn't you like to have it with you? And so apply externally and drink. Okay, here comes the times. Poultices. We're talking external use. For poisoning, so snake bite or insect bite, 10 minutes and remove. How long? 10 minutes, that's it. Directly on the skin. Don't worry about the stain. You're saving a life. Forget about the mess. For infection, 2 hours. If you have some infection, 2 hours, remove, discard. 2 hours only, okay? For pain, knee pain, your ankle, any type of pain or inflammation, all night, 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, and you can reuse it, okay? So let's review. Poisoning, 10 minutes. Infection, 2 hours. Pain or inflammation, 6 to 8 or more. It won't hurt you. And can you reuse it? Only the third option, right? Only for pain and inflammation you could reuse. Very good. So we said 1 part ground flax. Why do I like, okay, what else can we use instead of flaxseed? Chia seeds. You can use flour, cornstarch, anything. You need a binder. You need something to make a paste. I like flaxseed because it's anti-inflammatory and it makes a very good jelly, a very good mushy butter, you know. But you can use anything you have at hand. Even if you don't have a powder like cornstarch or psyllium, or you can do ground oats, right? You can just mix it with olive oil, just mix it with something and make it wet. But you want to have like a butter, like a nice paste. And if you use warm water and wait a little bit, it's gonna be nicer, thicker, but you don't have to wait. But if you wait a little bit, a few minutes. Yes, so when we buy flaxseed to eat for the omega-3s and stuff, you need to buy it whole. And then bind a coffee grinder and then make your own when you're eating it. I buy the ground flaxseed just for my poultices. But if you're gonna eat it, don't buy ground flaxseed and eat it because it's not good. It's better because the benefits, they're gonna stay safe inside the seed. Mm-hmm. There's some oxidation. What? Yeah. If you trust how they're managing and if they never got, because, you know, from the company and then it goes from the truck to the store to, if you make it yourself, oh, okay. In the refrigerator? Yes. Yeah, okay. And how they managed. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the Ellen G. White says, I have no time to relate the wonderful cures brought not by dosing with drugs, but by the application with water. We use charcoal largely, making it into poultices. It destroys inflammation and removes the poison. So let's make poultices. yay! What do you want? Okay, so you need thick paper or cloth. Cotton cloth, depending on the size of the charcoal. I try this. Um, got it. Or you can use cloth, cotton gauze, right? Depending on the size of the charcoal. This is stop it. Charcoal powder, about 10 drops of oil, clove oil. The towel probably is almonds. Exactly where the paint. So that's for two have pie, a pirate pie. This that so anyway, I would put it like here. So said uh okay. So they're bringing so either put it on top and something. Thank you. Oh yes, I had a chicken. At least that is the chicken. Yeah, big. I was doing it. My daughters. I put a lot, and I put back the chicken. water, so after like so for dogs have tablets. Charcoal is good for. They use clay and charcoal also for like horses, have snakes biting them, or when they. Okay, so how many? One. Of this charcoal powder, and I'm careful. I ruin. So 1 and 1. 1 and 1, and then 3 of water, and I'm gonna use this. Okay. So 1, 1, and then 3 of water. So 1, 3. You can always add more. So you're gonna make a nice paste. And you're gonna spread it like a sandwich, either on a cloth, cotton cloth, I think I need, or okay. Okay. Good. I'm gonna add a little flaxseed. So to know what the consistency you you want it to drop like a. Doesn't drop, is too dry. It's okay. So I like to use. I ordered this online as a dentist bib. Uh-huh. This one has plastic on one side, and it's nice paper on the other side. You put the over it. So I'm gonna use her, but you can use a paper, right? And spread it here, make a sandwich, and use plastic on. So we can do both. Let's do the napkin. I can show you both. Okay, so we spread it, and what did I say? Do we need a lot? You don't. I mean, it can be. And you pray with your friend. Is the area this big or? Okay, now you can also do this. So this is wet, right? I'm gonna fold it on the side so it won't go out. Okay. So if, like for example, for her shoulder, you can buy big tape. Sandwich. And put little oil on top. for pain with peppermint or eucalyptus. Have little eucalyptus here, very little. You can also make it a little wet because I want the charcoal to go through the napkin. And then in her case, I told you why do we use plastic? That's the reason. So I like these bandages. Are you allergic to latex? Ace bandage is not co-bound. Because it's plastic and as a bandage, and this is plastic. I don't know where. Let's pray. Not supposed. But for that, I'm gonna give. Have you tried this? This is cayenne pepper. Have you tried this? Really good. It's really strong. You want charcoal? You want cayenne pepper? It's gonna hurt, but it's very strong. And you can make your own cayenne peppers. There's a night that we're gonna learn poultices. Is it this area or is it this? Got it. Okay. What's in the forehead? God is, I says you need to add power. It's the love of God. Of the gen- So it's gonna hurt. Let us know how, because I know this one burns a little. So the way this one works is gonna relax because I want to practice everything. And then, but I think ice massage. Okay, who wants the poultice? Who else has? Lori has. Wrist. Okay, with Lori we can use the dentist bib. So what I'm gonna do, Sister Lori, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remember always find the cause, the piano playing. So it's carpal tunnel inflammation. Charcoal will help. So with her, I think we had. So we're gonna use the dentist bib. So I'm gonna make it this big. Oh, this big, yeah. And we're gonna spread it across. Oh, it didn't. Oh my. It's gonna shake. Okay, so then you open the plastic, and then spread it. You need a very thick. No. Don't go all the way to the edge because then it's gonna spill over. Stay in the center. And cover it with the plastic. Oh, nice. Of course, it goes paper. But it will. So we have paper, poultice, plastic, then bandage. Yes? I thought I had opened it. No? No. Maybe I didn't. All right. So and I didn't make it so um I like Koban, but in her yeah, take a picture so we can send to my. Can you take a story? Marco. They're gonna think I'm black lipstick. Okay, who's next? Is it burning? No? Here, this is expired. Documentation. We need to know how it works and if okay. So poisoning 10 minutes only. For infection 2 hours and discard. For pain all night. And you could move it, put in a Ziploc bag, put in the refrigerator. Have to make it wet again. Okay, where is your pain? Wrap. Whole body wrap. That's what she said. I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing with you. We're nurses. The knee. Okay. Another knee. Ah, this knees. Poor knees. Someone wants to help me? Come on. Come on. So you're gonna put it. Actually, I signed. Oh. plastic. I have a plastic bag or a cling. Some people get the cling around. You know that plastic wrap. Don't wrap the plastic because wrap with plastic on top of on top of the poultice. That preference. So, I mean, you do that with. But my point is just cover because the plastic is there to keep the moisture. Poultice. While she's doing that, we're the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. Start from the bottom. In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. Unhealthful conditions have its corrected. Then nature assisted in her effort. The cause should be ascertained. Unhealthful conditions should be changed from of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. Unhealthful conditions should be changed, wrong habits corrected. Then nature is to be assisted in her efforts to expel impurities and to reestablish right conditions in a system. Ministerial Healing, page 127. It's good, Lori. We need to practice it. That's gonna help us. Okay, questions? Comments? Question? Uh-huh. Supposed to use plastic and wood. Don't use metal because that will affect clay and charcoal's electric, whatever. Maybe a little plastic. But they now this plastic is number 2. Yes. So your plastics, good question about plastics. This is plastic number 1. It's the best of the worst. I mean, it's not as bad as number 3 is That's carcinogenic. White plastics like this and bottles like this, it's plastic number 2. So 1 and 2 are less problematic, but stay away from heat. Things, of course. Number 6 on that in countries is banned. That's your styrofoam. And people use it to put soup in the microwave, and then they're eating the whole plastic. Premature sexuality and alterations in sexuality, and carcinogenic. Plastic number 6, 7, and number 3. So at the bottom, you're going to see a little triangle, which they use to when you put plastic and paper cycle, they don't mix. So that's why they use it. So you dollar store or kids toys. So yeah, plastic is a. I was impressed that you have plastic bags. Oh, I mean they're trying to bring your own black bags when you. Plastic can. Some plastics. Good. When you're preparing it, I should use plastic spoons, but not metal, for charcoal and for clay. So wood, of course, is better. And yes, glass would be better. Ask the question about the plastic. I would say online, but someone mentioned someone is selling. Yeah. Yes. And buy buckets. You know what we do in Weimar when we have community programs? I bought stickers with Bible verses. Pretty. Put poultice already mixed. So mix the flaxseed, 1 and 1 of charcoal, just the powder, in a Ziploc bag. Put a Bible text sticker, and then so then you teach them or give them a handout with how to make it. Add the water and make it. Now, when you make it in a Ziploc bag, you already have the plastic. So you can add the water inside, then make it. Like if you're camping or traveling, it's easier. And it's not as messy. You don't need a glass and all that. You already have your poultice. Fill it, cut the bag, and just put a paper. So, yeah. Yes, you always use a poultice directly on the skin. But get a tattoo? Yeah. Just mix everything like this is your glass instead of having a glass like this. You're going to do everything inside the bag. Yeah, so it works. It works. We had someone got a surgery. Something I never knew it existed. It's called plastron. Plastron, a benign tumor made of a lot of irritation. So it was a ruptured appendix. Open, they thought it's their appendix, but fine, it's like a cauliflower. type tumor. And it's already in the intestine, so they cut a piece of, move the appendix, and then put the intestine back together. It's a major surgery where they have to up, drain left, actually. And so the pain after the surgery was very intense because the infection causes gas. So it's gassy, taking pain medicine, right, and antibiotics, and nothing is helping for that pain because the gas is extending the abdomen and stretching, causing a lot of. So didn't go away, and I'm like, what if we put a charcoal poultice? I call my friend who is a nurse and my friend is a doctor, and they're like, we're so afraid of this type of thing. Even you know, doctors and we're because maybe we're not familiar. So I said, well, I'm gonna my reasoning. Juan said, and my family. So you know. So I'm gonna buy sterile gauze, not just any sterile gloves to prepare it, and I'm gonna buy sterile water, not just water, but you know, buy. So I made the poultice as sterile or as clean as possible. Sterile gauze, cover it over the scar. I was supposed to change it in 2 hours, but I fell asleep. So it stayed like, but I'm like, oh, alarm or something. So I went. It was wrinkly. Now the charcoal poultice was black. When I removed the gauze, like this. What color do you think? All black. Why white? Why is pus white? Pus? White blood cells. No, infection would be green. So it looked like beige, creamy color. So I said, okay, good, it worked, no pain. We'll put another one tonight. And he says, no, put another one now. I'm like, oh yeah, right, we can put another one in the morning and one. And when we went back to the doctor, because the doctor has said, you're going to form an abscess. We're going to have to open again. It was like, it was not a clean surgery. Marco? But he says, oh yeah, everything worked, the antibiotics and pain. So pray, believe. I'll read it. Not work a miracle for us while we neglect the simple remedies He has provided for our use. Aptly and opportunity applied will bring about a miraculous result. Therefore, pray, but work. So tomorrow